I have a crush on myself. Is it incest if it's yourself? What if you're making out with yourself in public and people see it and think you're like making out with your to our first sex scene? That was deeply uncomfortable. Nope, can't do it. I can't do it. Nope. Ramifications of fucking yourself. So, I am about 25% of the way through Doppelbanger. I'm shockingly liking this. It weirdly combines two of my favorite things, which is space/quantum physics and also romance in a really weird way. So essentially this follows Good and Bad August. And in the beginning of the novel, Good August thinks that he is a stalker. There's like some weird circumstances where in one of his local cafes, they make comments about like, oh, are you back for your second coffee of the day? Or like, why did you change your clothes? Things like that. And so he suspects that like something weird is going on, and he ends up running into this stalker. And they look exactly like him, and they claim that they are August from an alternate reality. To get Good August's help to save the universes, essentially, because something happened that is now collapsing all of the universes, including his own. And we get Good August point of view and Bad August point of view, and he's only called Bad August in his own chapters, and the reasons behind that are slowly revealed. Bad August, pretty much right off the bat, is attracted to Good August. He notices how buff he is, and he's just thinks that he's like adorable and sweet and cute. Good August is also kind of reluctantly attracted to Bad August, but is not as like open and receptive and doesn't talk about it as much. Bad August definitely constantly mentions how hot Good August is. Kind of a little bit strange. It's easy to forget that they look the exact same, like they're the same person, and that they are essentially falling in love with themselves looking in a mirror. Like, it's easy to forget that because they do have two pretty distinct voices between the chapters, and they do have different personalities. Good August, I would say, is this just like insecure, lonely guy who's very down on himself, down in his luck, and doesn't really have a lot going on in his life. Bad August is like a physicist, and he seems to be very otherworldly. He has kind of a playboy, very flirty personality that is hiding some darkness, if you will, underneath the surface. And so they definitely have differing personalities. There are things that they share in common. They have very similar upbringings, very similar things happen to them. There's just a point around college age in which their timelines kind of diverge from each other, but they're pretty similar. And what I am appreciating about this, oddly, is how different they are personality-wise. I think they work pretty well together, and aside from the fact that in the very beginning, they were constantly mentioning, like, I have a crush on myself, or I think myself is hot, or whatever. It's pretty easy to separate them as different people. And I'm really enjoying the plot aspect of this. I like the idea of a multiverse. I like stories that center around universes collapsing and figuring out time travel and all that kind of stuff. That's very fun. It's just a, like, decently written, albeit a little weird, sci-fi fantasy romance sort of thing. Like, the romance is definitely there. They definitely, like, it's taken quite a bit to get to the plot aspect, and that is, I think, the pitfall of this story very early on, despite the fact that when I pick it up, I'm, like, completely consumed by it. I definitely think there is a pitfall in the beginning of too many things happening before they get to the point where they start solving the mystery. Obviously, I know that, like, Good August needs to see some proof, for lack of better phrasing, that what Bad August is saying is true, but it's not, like, I get it for the story that Good August and the reader needs to see that for it to be believable, but in the story itself, like, Good August pretty much immediately believes it and immediately trusts everything that Bad August is saying, which is an interesting part of his character, I feel like. Bad August, at the 25% mark, just revealed some secrets to him about a part that he may have played in the way that the universe is falling apart. Good August is giving him empathy and compassion in a way that I think is understandable, but also is a little bit like, this doesn't make a ton of sense. Like, if someone had come to me and said, like, I just killed a ton of people, I obliterated universes, and I keep obliterating universes, and I knew what I was doing was not right, and I kept doing it to get my own means to get what I wanted out of the whole thing, I don't necessarily know that I would have been as empathetic as Good August is being. So I think overall I'm having a pretty decent time with this. It is a little bit weird, and I do think that the sex scenes / masturbation scenes are going to be really interesting, and the fact that this is almost a 600-page book is a little bit concerning for me, especially given how insta-lusty this story is, but I'm not opposed to writing it out, seeing how it goes. So it's definitely not as weird in the, like, incest. Is it incest if it's yourself? I don't know. I definitely don't feel as weird about it as I thought I would, but yeah, we'll see once the actual, like, romance, I guess, kicks in. Here's a question I feel like simply cannot be ignored, and that is, if you move past the fucking yourself kind of thing, what about when you go out in public, or like, what do you tell your friends or your family? Like, how do you have a relationship with yourself and expect people to just, like, what if you're like PDA, like, what if you're making out with yourself in public and people see it and think you're, like, making out with your twin? Like, how does this work? Okay, we are 50% of the way through to our first sex scene, so I wanted to record my thoughts before I read it. I'm liking this in, like, a really weird way. It's emotional and vulnerable, but it's funny and quirky and a little bit odd, and it's just like, I don't know, it's good. I don't know. There's definitely things about it that I don't enjoy. It definitely is insta love, insta lust. The beginning to this point, it's only been like 2 days, and they're already basically saying I love you. They're already having sex, all that kind of stuff. So obviously the romance is very, very rushed, and the optics of it, like, just all of it, falling in love with yourself is wild, but it's just endearing. There's something endearing about this story. I think the characters are so interesting, and the ways that their life has shaped them in different directions, and the ways they're showing up for each other is so interesting. And, like, I would love to read a romance by this author where they're not where they're not the same person, because they're doing a great job with the chemistry between the characters. Like, even though it is insta lust, I don't know, it's working. Oh, my camera died, so we're just gonna get a voiceover. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's good. I'm liking it so far. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this sex scene, because we did have a, like, masturbation scene in a mirror where he was, like, looking at himself in the mirror, but he was seeing the other August, and that was deeply uncomfortable and weird. So I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this one, but like I said, there are moments, like, tender, vulnerable moments with them where they're, like, not talking about the fact that they look exactly the same, where it, like, almost feels like a real romance, and it's easy to forget that they're the same person. I don't know. It's just a weird reading experience, and I'm liking it. Like, it's like a good solid 4-star maybe at this point. Like, that sounds crazy to say, but it has, like, all of the beats. The romance is kind of giggly-ish, despite the weird premise. The characters feel realized. There's good banter, and it's funny. And the science is science-y without being too overwhelming for, like, a layperson. And aside from the insta-lust and insta-love, it just feels good. Like, it just feels like a well-written story. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So apprehensive going into a sex scene, which is not something you want to say or feel when you're reading a romance. But here we are. Nope. Can't do it. I can't do it. Nope. No.
Okay, so I am about 86% of the way through, and I wanted to give an update before I finish it on my way to work. As I kind of anticipated, the sex was not it. And there have been multiple sex scenes, like a lot, plot-wise. They realized that their sex was ripping the universe apart faster than people, friends, other Augusts together to help them figure out how to solve the problem. And they end up doing a bunch of like skipping throughout the universe, in which they're like fucking way more. I'm gonna talk about the plot whenever I finish the book, and we'll talk about it like at my wrap up, because I do have thoughts about the plot. But for now I want to talk about the romance, because I do feel like that is the driving force. The reason to pick up this romance, or to pick up this book, is the like kooky, crazy romance. And unfortunately, I don't really like the romance at all. I don't like the doppelganger type of storyline. It makes the relationship very weird. Like, as anticipated, obviously I knew it was going to be weird, but I thought I might be able to get over it. But because romance is so insta-love and insta-lust, there really isn't a ton of relationship growth. Like, they do spend a lot of time talking, but a lot of the explanation of why they have feelings for each other is like, he's me, he just gets me, he's been through the same thing, like, he just understands me, which I don't like in any romance, and I don't like it in this one. And so the relationship development is just really, really not there. And like I said earlier, I feel like it could have been done in a better way, because there were scenes that were getting, you know, tender and vulnerable between them, and I was forgetting that they are talking to themselves in the mirror. And I was like kind of getting into the romance a little bit. I don't know, questions and weirdness and like ramifications of fucking yourself. Aside from that, the romance itself, I just didn't like, unfortunately. And I think their relationship dynamics work well, like the kind of characters that they are work well together. Unfortunately, the romance of this did not work. The plot, however, we'll talk about, because I'm liking it and I'm not liking it, but I do need to get to work, and so I'm gonna finish this on my drive.
All right, I have finished Doppelbanger, and I suppose we can talk about what I liked before we get into the problems with the book. This is a very odd and inventive story. I've never read a romance or a sci-fi book or a fantasy quite like this, in a way that made the reading experience a delight for most of the book. Aside from just the romance, the like time travel, multiverse kind of thing was a lot of fun to read, and the way that the author went about it was very fun. Obviously, there are tons of multiverse type stories, and so in that regard, this is not new, but the way that the author went about it was tons of fun and was pretty odd and inventive. And so overall, I would say plot-wise, I enjoyed the story. I thought it was fun to read a multiverse romance where they were talking about space and ideas behind time travel and all of those kinds of things, and like the possibility of time travel, the mechanics behind it, the theories of how it would work. And I liked the like band of friends that they made. I liked the idea of them running into themselves in like other worlds, and those Augusts having other motives and stuff like that. I liked the way that the plot progressed up until about the, I would say, 70% mark. I guess we can just go ahead and get into that, and this starts my list of complaints. The plot after the 70% mark was entirely too drawn out. The fact that this is, I think, right at or a little over 500 pages is completely unnecessary. After the two Augusts get together and they involve their band of friends in the solving of the problem, they do a ton of sex, do a ton of jumping through timelines and through universes and time slips and all of that kind of stuff, to the point that it was very, very repetitive, and there was a lot of time spent on each skip on each new universe, on what they were doing there, how they were surviving, in ways that I just found wholly unnecessary and really bogged down the last bit of the story. And the romance was unfortunately a failure for me. And I think certainly part of it was the idea of like fucking yourself, essentially, of falling in love with yourself. That's just too outlandish. It's just too much. I don't know, beyond the bounds for me, I think, of what I can tolerate, what I can get over, whatever. It's a fun concept, but the idea of actually wanting them to be together, like swooning for the romance, I think it's beyond my capabilities, to be honest with you. So, in addition to that, like I said earlier, it is an insta-love, insta-lust type of story, and again, that like 70% point on is so much sex. So much of them hooking up in random places, and that kind of propels the plot along, which I do not like. I'm already someone that much prefers an emotional connection, emotional depth to grow a relationship, not just sex. I need other stuff, and so the fact that this majority was insta-lust, insta-love, and then all that we got up to after a certain point was sex, was incredibly frustrating for me. So I would say the last like 30% of the novel really, really, really went downhill. Ultimately, I think I would give this book, like, between you and me, I would give this book like a 2-star. However, I did on Goodreads give it like an additional star, and that's just for, like I said, the odd, inventive story. And the beginning portion of the story was fun. It was easy to read, it was easy to get through. I found myself engrossed in the story, but when I sat back and really thought about it, it just wasn't good. I don't know. I hate to say that, but it wasn't that good. I would be interested to read more from this author. I do think that there is some ability there, and I could see myself reading a less weird romance dynamic between their characters and enjoying a romance from them. So I have a couple of books on their backlist that I have added to my list on my want to read shelf, and so I will be checking those out in the future. That is this book. I would love to talk down below if you have read this or not. If you plan to read it, let me know. Make sure you check out our Discord for the community. It also includes a book club that is open to all. Don't forget to subscribe if you're looking for more content like this from me. I do post media related videos and also more lifestyle-y vlogs, so I really have anything that you could want available. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next one.